I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to like this movie. Cause I mean, with a title like that and a poster like this, it's got the makings to be one of the greatest guilty pleasures of all time. So you tell me my man's not only freed the slaves, but also fucked up vampires?
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Now, do I actually think the movie's good though? Well, let me start off by saying that I'm actually kind of glad that it didn't take too long to get to the, vampires. Because the first vampire shows up like 10 minutes into the movie, while Abe Lincoln's like a child, because one ends up killing his mother, which pretty much fuels the whole motivation for him to even become a vampire hunter. So what do these vampires actually look like? Well, sometimes they look like bats, which makes sense, and then other times they look like Pennywise whenever he opens his mouth. Then when Abe Lincoln's in like his 20s, he meets an actual vampire hunter who then proceeds to train him to become a vampire hunter, which, I mean, who the fuck doesn't like a good training montage? I do, everybody does, and I think this one definitely did a good job to get the point across. Didn't take too long, wasn't too cheesy. Before I even move on with the rest of the plot of this movie, let's take a minute to admire 1800s style. The hat, the fucking coat, man, them some suspenders, boy. It's fire. I love it. If everyone's still dressed like this, I would appreciate it. Now, what about the fight scenes, right? The only reason anybody would ever want to watch this movie is for fight scenes. No one's here looking for fucking Oscar-worthy acting and god-tier writing. No one gives a shit about that when they're clicking on this kind of movie. I will say the dopest part of this entire movie to me was he was chasing the main vampire guy that he wanted to kill, right? The first vampire he ever encountered, he was chasing him, and that motherfucker threw an entire horse at him. That was the first time in the entire movie that I was like, okay, finally, you have my attention. Like, that shit was fucking funny. But then, maybe like a little less than an hour into the movie, there's a quote-unquote plot twist that the trainer of Abe actually turned out to be a vampire himself, and that he only trained him because he himself cannot kill other vampires because they physically can't, which is kind of stupid because they don't really explain why. It's just like, oh, that's canon in this world, like what the fuck? Which then led to him being captured by like the new Ministry of Darkness vampires, right? And in the rescue of Abe Lincoln, they decide to remind you just how goofy of a movie you're watching when this motherfucker comes in drifting a horse carriage like it was fucking Tokyo Drift, and I was laughing my fucking ass off. And then it proceeds to, around the 1 hour mark, jump about 30 years to when he's president, and now he's donning his iconic look with the hat and the beard. Now we got the real Abe Lincoln in this bitch. And now that he's living in the White House, one of the evil vampire ladies sneaks in and proceeds to infect Abe Lincoln's son, which does eventually kill him, as one big fuck you for killing all the vampires that he did when he was in his 20s, early 30s. So this action leads Honest Boy Abe to lead the war in Gettysburg against vampires. And when he finally gets the big brain idea to replace all the bullets with silver, they obviously have to transfer it to Gettysburg somehow. So they plan to pretty much pretend that they're gonna get it there by a train. And of course the vampires get a whiff of this, which leads to one big CGI battle on the train tracks that were at some point set on fire. So much so that motherfucker looked like Mustafar from Star Wars, and I was expecting Vader to show up at some point. But, of course, Lincoln prevailed, with him killing the vampire leader and retiring from vampire hunting.
Where's the silver? Right here!
So he could finally go on to be the iconic president that everybody knows. So that was my pretty quick synopsis of it. Now, was this actually a good movie? No, not really. But it did kind of fly by real quickly, which kind of means I did have some fun with it. And I think anyone who likes stupid shit like me will probably enjoy parts of it. Or if you're just intoxicated out the ass. Overall, it's like a 6.5 out of 10. Fun little one-time watch. But at least it still has one of the greatest titles of all time. Alright, I'm done.
And that government of the people, by the people, for the people.